stages. So I guess the title of this video is pretty straightforward, but I was just out here thoughtin' and bopping, thinking that I was going to be a sunscreen channel. Um, so I have been diagnosed with breast cancer. It is triple negative. I am 30 years old, and that's about the gist of it. In early 2021, in January of 2021, I found a lump in my breast just hanging out. People ask how I found it. It wasn't small at the time. I don't know really how to describe, so it was quite close to my armpit, and I had actually asked some friends at the time if this is why I love girlfriends, and I think having a lot of girlfriends is healthy, but I did ask some friends at the time if they had ever had any sort of experience with lumps in their breasts, and some had. So there are conditions, in and around your period, where you might get swelling, just bumps in the breast. There are other conditions that cause bumps in the nipples. These are all pretty normal, state-of-the-mill, just hormonal fluctuations and stuff. More than anything, I think during this process, first of all, I'm not a doctor. Wow, I'm really not a doctor. But second of all, I feel like this whole process has made me realize how little we actually know, and how much we just hope for the best in terms of medical care. So in January 2021, I found the lump in my breast, and I was obviously concerned, but everybody told me that, these things happen. I did book in, so at this time I did not have a family doctor, and I was using TELUS Babylon, which is an online application that you can download for free, and it connects you with doctors in your area. They did have me go in person, which was great. So they referred me in, and I had a physical exam, and they sent me in for an ultrasound. So I got referred to West Coast Medical Imaging out here in BC. So they did the ultrasound, and then I got a call from TELUS Babylon Health to review the results. So this is the point where I would go back to, I think. So the doctor that I saw was very young, and she was very flippant. She was just kind of yeah, what do you want me to do? It's a lump in your breast. Even reading the notes, she was kind of patient wanted to talk about removal, given some options, but patient will think about it. And I was like, you didn't really give me any options. So in Vancouver, there is, at Mount St. Joseph, one of the hospitals here, there is the Providence Breast Clinic, who is kind of the forerunner of all breast issues, breast cancers and whatnot, and they are fantastic. But anyway, so the ultrasound report had said to monitor at 6 months and 1 year. This is also something that wasn't communicated to me. That's not a normal report. So a normal report is usually follow-up as necessary. To my understanding, this is based on my own research. I'll also link an article below that actually came out just recently in, I believe it was the Global News, about a woman who was working as a medical transcriptionist, and she essentially transcribed her own ultrasound report for a lump and realized that 6 months to a year of having something monitored isn't a normal result. This was not communicated by the doctor that I spoke to on TELUS Babylon Health. Anyways, that's a very broad discussion about how broken the whole walk-in family doctor system is. But so I left that appointment feeling like a drama queen. All of my oncologists now are why didn't you go in at the 6 month mark? What happened at the 6 month mark? You were supposed to come in and have it seen sooner. I really thought people were acting like I was being the most in the way. In 2019, I started losing my hair. I had alopecia in 2019. I had a bald patch on the top of my head. And my family doctor at the time to try yoga. So as far as when people ask, the medical background in terms of finding the lump and things like that, it's been such a weird, I feel like I'm going to be pausing a lot in this video, and I don't know whether to edit it out or not, but sometimes it's such a weird conversation. in one case, I spoke to a doctor who, you know, I had asked, and I was kind of like, can you tell how long it's been there? And he said, you know, there's no point in thinking about it. So did they miss something? Most likely. So I ended up getting a family doctor, and at the 6-month mark, what was going on was just like, I ended up going on like a mental health leave from work. There was just like, there's been the lot, I mean, obviously everyone, 2020, we're not new here, right? It's been a ride. It's been a ride for everybody. There's been stuff outside of COVID, within COVID, whatever, right? So it was just getting to me. I had started a new job that was just like really crazy, and starting it from home and working from home, and also like speaking to people in that kind of like, I was working in a disability capacity, so you're also speaking to people who are having a hard time. And it was like, then I found the lump, and then no one wanted to help me with the lump, and I was just like, I am going to kill myself if I don't take some time away. So be kind, take time away when you need it. I'm still here, although maybe I'm not supposed to be anyways. Don't let my mom catch that on the internet. Anyways, so I ended up getting a family doctor, and earlier this year, so I went the 1 year without having the lump checked again, because again, I was just like, oh, yeah, 6 months. Everybody's just acting like I'm whatever. Okay, so in March, my dad came to visit and stay with me, and we had gone out to the island, and we had driven quite a bit, like we had driven north, and I was the one that had done most of the driving, so it was like I had some soreness in my shoulder, but I was like, well, you know, that makes sense. I don't drive often. I don't have a car out here. If you live in BC or you have any idea about insurance or gas, you know why. But anyways, so I thought that was a bit odd, and then I had complained about it being painful during workouts sometimes, almost like I would describe it as a muscle like spasm, or maybe like a Charlie horse. The tumor had grown into the muscle wall, so that would probably explain that. But yeah, so I was still kind of experiencing some symptoms. I did feel like the border had changed. So in early 2021, I don't want to say, in my belief, my own body to mind intuition, I don't think it was cancerous at first, but I do think, so now they're doing some genetic testing and stuff, and I might just be genetically prone. So if they had known that, they would have been more careful about the lump in the first place. But that's also not to say, like, you know, why can't everyone be careful about their lumps and their bumps, right? So my family doctor referred me, she had me go for another ultrasound, and this is the other thing, there's so much faffing with all this like paperwork, and you really need to be, I was really having a hard time mentally. I feel like, I know a lot of people in my personal life don't really understand that, or didn't really know that, but it was really hard for me to like make appointments and stay on top of things. So they had sent like another follow-up requisition for this ultrasound at West Coast Medical. I finally went, and I get there, and the tech is like still chewing her lunch as she like gets me up on the table and starts doing the exam. And I can see in her face like the terror, and she flips on the light in the room, which is like in an ultrasound, the whole point is like for it to be dark, right? So you can see the screen, and she starts like inspecting the breast. So I'm concerned. I'm laying there and I'm like, I know it's wrong. I know. And I had actually texted a friend the night before, and I was like, I think I see dimpling. Like, so dimpling is when the tumor will grow into the wall and it'll pull on the skin from the inside. And I was like, now I'm just convincing myself, right? Like, this is just full speed ahead anxiety. So I was already pretty spooked after the appointment, and then my family doctor called me to review the results, and that was when my dad was home and she was away on vacation, and it was like basically the month of March. I was just waiting for an appointment, and I was like, oh, is it urgent? And it was just after the ultrasound, and the girl was like, no, I don't think so. So I ended up seeing my doctor, and she was like, okay, yeah, we're definitely just going to go ahead and do the biopsy. If you read the Globe and Mail, I think it's the Globe and Mail. It's not the Globe and Mail. it's the global news. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to link the article below. It's very good. It is about a woman, again, the medical transcriptionist who transcribes her own ultrasound report and what is normal and what isn't. And, you know, she talks about how once you're at the biopsy phase, you need to like admit that it's not normal, right? I don't think I really was there. So you get into the biopsy and she says the same thing. People are telling you what to have like what a good attitude, and you know, like people are doing that thing where they're trying to talk to you about your personal life and like calm you down a little bit. I am drowning in red flags at this point. I am concerned about the red flagginess of it all. I also like live alone. I had left work, so I wasn't working at the time, and I just was pickling in this anxiety. Again, when I say 2020 is a ride, girl, I am barely holding on. So the biopsy came back, and my doctor called me. I had the biopsy on a Monday. The doctor called me on Thursday to see me that day because it was before the long weekend before Easter. And she called me on Thursday, and I was filming a video about my hair loss, and I was helping it grow back. And she had been trying to get a hold of me all day, and I was avoiding her phone calls, and I was like, I mean, you know, I think deep down, right? So she called, and she was like, I hope you're sitting. And she was like, yeah, it's cancer. And, you know, I wasn't really processing it, I think. And she said it's triple negative. And obviously, you know, like, unless you have cancer, unless you know someone very closely, even, I mean, like, I had people in my life who had cancer, but the, like, names and the numbers and whatever, those seem so specific, right? So, triple negative, breast cancer tumor will have basically 3 sites where it can interact with hormones. So it can be estrogen positive, progesterone positive, or something called HER2 positive. Triple negative basically means that like I don't have any of those binding sites. So there's a bunch of treatments that aren't available for me or that aren't as efficacious. So essentially the tumor is much harder to treat. It's much more aggressive, and it has a higher likelihood of recurrence. So basically, for something like this to happen at my age, you know, all signs point to genetics. Unfortunately, I have no history of breast cancer in my family. I do have one history, like my grandmother had ovarian cancer, but she was 40 and she recovered. So, you know, kind of left field. Nobody really expected or saw it coming. Um, but yeah, so I spent that weekend kind of, well, I told my parents, I think was the hardest part. I find overall, like, I'm pretty good about being sad and, like, emotions and crying, but sometimes, like, this chemo treatment has made me much more sensitive than last week's. I have panic disorder. Wow, I'm just gonna put all my medical information on the internet, I guess. I have a panic disorder, and I found that cancer and chemo have like kind of flared it up a little bit again, unfortunately. But yeah, I would say telling my parents, at first I wasn't going to. I really thought that I could do like the whole chemo thing on my own, and I know people that do, and those of you that do are incredible. Not incredible. I mean, it's okay to ask for help, but I, you know, just so many feelings and things to say, right? Yeah, telling my parents, like, you know, my friends are announcing engagements and they're announcing like having babies, and you know, my parents were probably expecting me to be like, hey, I have news, like I met someone or I got a job, or you know, like I don't know, news that you would expect from a 30-year-old. But after my family doctor called me, I kind of had the weekend to, you know, touch base with like friends and family that I wanted to know. And I got to kind of research a little bit about triple negative, so I had a better understanding of what was going on. And I am like so thankful to my family doctor for that, because after the biopsy, so everything was happening at the like Mount St. Joseph Providence Breast Clinic, and they were phenomenal. Like the process is so streamlined, and like essentially once you're in, yeah, I felt like I was like on a train, you know what I mean? Like I'm just holding on for dear life and they're just zooming me along. Living in a big city like Vancouver with resources like the Providence Breast Center was incredible. Again, like they have preferred providers and stuff like that, and someone is constantly monitoring the referral list as well. So they're like, shuffling people around all the time. Anyways, so I went in on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, I think, because anyways, they called me in for this appointment, and I met with one of their doctors, like their resident doctor at the Providence Breast Center. I didn't find that appointment very helpful. I think that's the appointment where they're really just meant to tell you, like, you got the big C. Something that I keep hearing from people who have been through the process at all is like standing up for yourself. I'm losing the words for it, but like advocating for yourself and things like that. But you're in these appointments and you're kind of like, the doctor does know best, right? So you're like, yeah. And then I leave the appointment and I'm like, I wanted to know more. Like I had more questions. So I would say, yeah, that appointment was a bit, it was almost good, I think, maybe to just go back into the clinic, understand and feel like I was going to be one of their patients. It made me feel like I was like in the system, right? But it wasn't really like the appointment itself didn't really bring it to light anything that I didn't know. But that's also because of like my amazing family doctor who was able to reach out to me, or chose to reach out to me and let me know before the appointment. So then I met with the surgeon. So my mom flew in basically as soon as I would let her. I told her not to fly in until I started chemo, but just try to keep a mother away from an only child with cancer. I am literally the most spoiled person alive. Anyways, so my mom flew in and we met with the surgeon. There is a chance that chemo will shrink the tumor and they will only need to operate the tumor bed. So they could remove just the spot, but there's obviously a higher chance of recurrence if they don't remove the whole breast. So based on the cancer that I have, the age that I am, a mastectomy is basically like a given at this point. Something that I forgot to mention too, during the biopsy, what they do as well is they take a piece of the tumor, obviously, to check it for cancer, but they add like a small metal marker. It looks like a little infinity symbol. And essentially what that helps with is that once the tumor shrinks from chemo, I say once the tumor shrinks, not if the tumor shrinks, because through the power of mind, I must convince myself that this tumor will shrink and I will get over this. So once the tumor shrinks from chemo, the marker shows where the tumor bed is. So if you choose to just remove the tumor bed, you'll be able to remove the exact spot where the biopsy was taken. So sometimes too, like different ends of the tumor might like read differently. So I have seen online, again, some of these are like just to my understanding, so I could be wrong, but I have seen online that some people have measured triple negative in one spot, but then like HER2 positive in another. And I understand that HER2 positive is a sliding scale, so you can be like 3% HER2 positive, right? They took the biopsy for the breast tumor, and then they scheduled me for a CAT scan. So I had a CT scan, and after the CT scan, they did another biopsy. Anyways, I've had 2 biopsies done. I had a biopsy on the breast lump and on the first lymph node. So there is involvement in the first lymph node as well as having grown into the tissue wall. So between those 2, that puts me at a stage 3A for breast cancer. So I have a marker in the armpit and then in the breast as well. And then they did a CT scan, they did an MRI, and they did a PET scan. So the CT scan, to my understanding, okay, again, these are all kind of like a little bit layman's terms, right? So one is more like bone focused, one is more muscle focused. What was more, or like muscle and organ? Okay, don't come at me if you're like a tech. If you are a tech, leave comments below, educate us all, let us know. What was interesting to me was the PET scan. Not that the other ones aren't interesting or valid, but the PET scan, so you take a like radioactive drink beforehand, or sorry, this one was an injection, so it's an injection. and you kind of just percolate for about 45 minutes. So they close like the lights in the room, and you just kind of hang out. You take a little nap in warm blankets. It's not too bad. And then they put you into the machine. So the PET scan machine and the CT machine are the same, or at least they look the same, but they're a donut and the other side is open. So the MRI is definitely definitely more claustrophobic. A little bit is a bit of a lie, but I just closed my eyes and went to my happy place. That's the only thing you can do. But the PET scan is interesting because basically in that solution that they give you through the IV, you have the radioactive like isotope, but it's linked to glucose. And because cancer cells are so like basically they're undead, they don't have the same lifespan as a regular cell. When they do the imaging, the rest of your cells will have passed the radioactive isotope, but the cancer cell will still have it. So essentially on a PET scan, cancer will show up as like a neon highlight. Anyways, I thought that was really interesting, and it also calls into question like the metabolism of the cancer. So kind of like they have a better understanding of how it will react with the chemo drugs and stuff, which I, again, think is really interesting. Based on the type of cancer that I have and my age and everything, I'm basically also like a pretty good candidate for a lot of studies. So hopefully with the PET scan imaging as well, and with the chemo drugs that they have me on, they'll also have a better understanding of like how chemo can affect cancer cells, and better ideas and ongoing changes in treatment. So after all the scans, I started chemo, and that's kind of where we are now. I've had 2 sessions, and I have a third tomorrow. Chemo's been okay. So I've done 2 rounds so far, and I have a third coming up. So far as nausea and vomiting, I've been doing very well. Sometimes some nausea, but good, like they give you very good anti-nausea medications, and those have been helping a ton. Appetite is pretty low. I just find that like nothing is appealing. Maybe that's what it is. But my mom is staying with me, and she's like basically Martha Stewart. So basically whatever I order is on the menu. But yeah, so just a fun little update about my life. I had thought, I'm gonna just start putting whatever I want on YouTube, and maybe like a community will come out of it, and maybe I'll just get a little bit more direction. Aren't we all kind of, Aren't we all kind of faffing around in the 2020s, right? Oh my gosh. Okay. We're all faffing around in the 2020s and just hoping for the best, right? So, I guess I will be posting maybe cancer stuff, cancer adjacent stuff. I want to say, if you have triple negative breast cancer, if someone you know has triple negative breast cancer, I am so sorry, but it'll be okay, or as okay as it's supposed to get. And yeah, hopefully we can cook and eat and laugh together. Bye. Where's sunscreen?